Hey fellas, I'd just like to agree to state that the subject matter for this particular video has already voluntarily offered his real name, address, and other identifying information to the online space, and I honestly don't think he can really be doxxed at this point. Regardless, I'd just like to state that I'm not advocating for nor encouraging the targeted harassment that has taken place so far. Plenty of others have already stepped up to play to do so, so just leave him alone. Just don't. Don't do it. Don't even think about it. Alright? With all that being said, let's just go ahead and start the show. A hero walks among us, ladies and gentlemen. Gather around as I regale to you the story of most recent events. For there was a hero that was not afraid to stand for what he believed in, laying his life on the line in the name of morality and a call for decency. There came forth an urban ninja that sought to right a grave injustice he saw in the face of inaction, that a sexual predator dared reside with mortal kind in a wayward hamlet in Akron, Ohio. Stories abounded near and far that a seditious goblin of ill repute lived there. Locked away in the tall attic of an accursed house, he caused great hardship for all those who had the grave misfortune to live near. So came the ninja, having traveled the length of the land to oppose him. He sought not but to protest the community's tolerance that such a goblin could reside in that shunned house on a wayward road. For his efforts, he was attacked!
I'll get you, bitch!
The door had swung open, and screeching out of its confines came the ugliest of all goblins. The ninja stared on defiantly, showcasing an iron will and able body in the face of mortal danger.
Gonna get you, boy!
The goblin, highly territorial and already greatly agitated, aggroed with such force and great ferocity that a schoolchild would probably shit and piss himself. He charged the ninja with a war club.
Y'all don't belong here! Should've stayed home, boy! Outsider! Gonna get you! I have your scalp!
Undeterred, the ninja resisted, standing his ground with both feet planted firmly where he stood, showcasing great strength and bravery in the face of death.
Bruh.
Between half-hearted swings and throws of the bat, the fight soon turned into one for the war club, and in a feat of strength, the ninja held onto the base with but one hand.
Come at me! Draw back a nub!
There was much noise, much screaming and squealing in the dispute. The ninja braving not only his mortal body, but that of his senses and having to withstand the powerful, odorous assault naturally emanating from the goblin's wretched form. Roused by the disturbance taking place in their presence, those townsfolk who came out and had the grave misfortune to reside nearby soon came out to bear witness upon the spectacle. But a misguided call from the creature's own mother summoned the local guard. The king's men were called to the disturbance after nightfall, and came to grab the whelp and put him in shackles and chains.
That's it. Let it all out. Let it all out, Cyraxx.
I want to know why you did this to me.
You chose to break the law. Live with the consequences.
There was much shouting, much ire, much fury. The king had had enough, and would see to it this whelp of a menace were thrown in the dungeons.
I'm sorry that this happened.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
But he was spared this fate, for his kin provided the princely sum of a mere $304 in gold to spare their next of kin, and bring him back to the lair from whence he came. There are some who refer to him as Chance, Cyraxx. The name does not matter so much as the being, and the being does not matter so much as the idea, and the idea does not matter so much as it's cringe. It is a story told by an idiot,
This one's for you trolls.
full of sound and fury,
Shut the fuck up!
signifying nothing. That is the Cyraxx life story. A story that has remained ongoing for years. More recently, however, well, you might find interest in such macabre things. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Japan back in action. Toss the else, anybody something else. You know, you love him. You can't live without him. It's Cyraxx!
Surprise, Shawty!
Or Chance, or the Goblin King. I mean, scratch that. He ain't no goddamn king. He will never be king. But there have been some sort of recent updates in Cyraxx's everyday life, and you have no idea who Cyraxx is and what he's all about. I'll be sure to tell you. But for the purposes of this video, this is largely geared towards people that already know who Cyraxx is. You know, his life's history to date, everything that sort of happened up to this point. Because more recently, there have been definitely some developments that have happened along the way. And what's interesting is that Thursday, I got home from work. It had been a long day at the office. I plopped my ass down at the computer chair, and I decided to pop on YouTube. And wouldn't you know it, a particular video was recommended to me that I watched for the entire duration. It was only about 33 minutes long. However, this was significant because it actually adds a lot of context to something that happened earlier this month. So do you all remember that in early June, basically Cyraxx was freaking the fuck out? Not something that hadn't already happened, because Cyraxx has a little bit of a penchant go off the rails anytime something happens that even remotely inconveniences his life, let alone things that he thinks will inconvenience his everyday life. However, he was basically freaking the fuck out that the only stipulation to him living in the house that he's living with his grandma, his dear Aunt Sally. I like to call her Aunt Sally because you don't see too many grandmas named Sally these days, but she's his grandma, took him in when he had nowhere else to go, and it's been downhill ever since. But, so like the only stipulation for him living there is to stay off the goddamn internet. What does Cyraxx do? Makes a fucking YouTube video to like complain about it. Bitch, moan, complain, like air his grievances to the online space, and try to drum up support. He was actually like saying, "Hey, I'm about to get kicked out of my house. It's gonna be me, Sally, and Ed, and we're gonna be on the street. So listen, I set aside $100 to enlist services of a lawyer so I can fight this." The landlady had the stipulation that either the internet goes or they go, and he was trying to drum up some support. Now, Cyraxx is the least bit selfish, so he's got a God-given right to be on the internet. I'm surprised that, like, Big Ed Mustafa, Ed is Sally's boyfriend, okay, for those of you that don't know, but I'm surprised Ed didn't bust in his room already and just be like pulling a fucking Bob Chandler and being like, "Shut that goddamn shit off." Now, do you have any, listen to me, boy, do you have any idea what you just done? If the health department and the landlady sees the goddamn internet videos put you on the goddamn internet, that they could evict us and we'd be out on the street and we'd have to move out of it. What you just did was stick a knife in our back and kill us. Well, nothing so dramatic, but I'm sure something happened. I'm sure there was a little bit of a conversation about it all. Anyway, the video was significant insofar as it was dated June 12, 2023, coinciding with the fact that Cyraxx had revealed to the online space that he was about to get evicted from his home if he didn't stay off the goddamn internet, which is horribly ironic because you're going to tell people this using the internet, making a YouTube video to try to drum up support so that you think all your quote-unquote fans are going to come out of the woodwork and give you money so that you can hire a lawyer to try to fight this. And Cyraxx has no understanding of the value of a dollar, let alone legal tender or how much something is truly worth. He doesn't seem to understand that legal fees are fucking expensive as hell. You know, going to court is expensive as hell. And even if he somehow enlisted the services of a lawyer, he was bragging about how he had like $100 set aside for this very purpose, which is just like, the bigger mystery here is, where did Cyraxx get that $100? Like, who in their right mind would have given it to him? Did he just steal that shit from his dear old Aunt Sally? I'm pretty sure just about any lawyer that just heard like the case file, just heard what the case was going to be all about and stuff like that, would just laugh his ass out of the office, let alone over the phone, because like I said before, legal fees are through the fucking roof. And you go to court with that $100 isn't going to do shit. Anyway, so The actual footage that was released on Thursday, I really got to hand it to two individuals out there for differing reasons, but they're interrelated insofar as detailing Cyraxx's everyday life. We got Fed Smokers Fiends, and we got Aware Myself, 4564. I think that's what his name is, but don't quote me on that. I just know it's like Aware Myself. Anyway, these two people have been very forthcoming and candid in uploading as much footage to YouTube to be freely accessible to the online space, anybody that happens to be the least bit interested or curious. So the footage is actually, the body cam footage of the answering police officer that arrives on the property. And the whole reason that he was summoned is because Sally couldn't help but call the cops and also call the landlady and just basically explain, hey, listen, I caught these two dudes trying to tear up sections of the fence, load them on the back of a truck. It's one of those goddamn Craigslist scams. You gotta watch out for those. Those Craigslist scams, man. They'll get you. But, and what's interesting about the video from the get-go is that Sally comes out to talk to the officer, but at the same time, you can just already tell when the officer gets out of his car, there's a simmering tension boiling inside of him. He does not want to be bothered with this bullshit, all right? And when Sally actually leaves the house, she exits out the back door, she actually locks the fucking screen door. And it's going to be readily apparent in a little bit because she didn't want Cyraxx coming out with her. She didn't want him interacting with the cop, making the situation least bit worse. So the cop, to his credit, is least bit professional, candid, and polite with Sally, who just explains, hey, there were two guys, an older fella, younger fella. I'm thinking that she inferred from that they were a father and son duo, supposedly answering a Craigslist ad or some shit like that. And they were tearing up sections of the fence, putting it into pieces, putting it on the back of the truck. She woke up from her nap, basically told him to knock it off, put the shit back down. They did, and they drove off. And she's just reporting this to the cop. And she goes into, talking about, they try to take my car. These random people online just come into the household trying to take my car, trying to take things off the property. And the cop's just, diligently taking notes, noting the situation, answers the radio. And, Cyraxx has the audacity to break the silence because he's, screaming from the screen door where, the one that Sally locked to keep him in the house away from the cop. And it's just I didn't do nothing. All these people are fucking with me and, it causing troubles. And the cop's just yes, you did. Yes, you did. It's I didn't do nothing. Yes, you did.
It's causes a lot of issues on the internet.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yes, you do.
Cop actually gets into it with Cyraxx, and you can just tell he is done. He basically puts down the MO. It's just yo, bro, I have seen all your videos.
I don't cause these issues. They do this to us.
We've been here 113 times. I've seen your YouTube videos,
Yeah,
man.
you don't know shit, dude.
And I've seen your...
You are bad fucking news. And, Sally starts to get on Cyraxx's case and just saying, go back in the house. Hey, Mouse, go back in the house. Go back upstairs.
Hey, Mouse! Chance! Go on, go upstairs.
Because she doesn't want him, making the situation at least a bit worse. And the fact of the matter is, the cop has already seen all of Cyraxx's videos. He knows everything there is to know that he has to know about Cyraxx. Probably the entire police department at this point, if anything is to go off of what he says later, but we're not quite there yet. So, he takes down some notes, just talks to Sally about all this, and there are momentary clips of the video where it's revealing personal information, therefore it's probably not privy to you and I, so it's muted, out of a sense of privacy, or respect to privacy to those involved, namely Sally. And the cop's just okay, I'm gonna be real with you. Your son, Chance, he's got mental issues and he's causing a whole lot of trouble online over the damn internet with all these people, okay? And, he just ups and says, hey, I'm going to be waiting in the squad car because landlady wants to come over. She wants to assess the damage and see if we can seek a resolution to all this. I'm going to go wait in the squad car so I can talk to her. So he does so. And for a while, it's just silent. He's doing mundane things like straightening up with things in the back, in the back trunk and shit like that. And then the landlady shows up. And the landlady, I'm just going to call her a Karen for the duration of this video because she sounds like a Karen, but she's also a Karen that's got a heart. And you'll see what I mean in a little bit. Anyway, The landlady arrives and initiates contact with the cop, and for a while, the cop's just sitting in a squad car and just talking to her through the squad car and just, answering questions, filling her in on what's up. And he explains the situation to her, and the landlady admits, she's just like, I only know half the story here, and I just want all the problems to go away. I want to seek a resolution to all this, so what can we do? And the cop actually has to spell it out to her. He has to basically tell her that Chance, like, the boy she knows as Chance, he's got an online persona because the landlady, she has no fucking idea what a Cyraxx is, who Cyraxx is, what they're all about. She has no idea about the double life that Chance Wilkins is living. So she only refers to him as Chance. It's like, I honestly want him out of here, okay? And, it's like, what can we do about this? And the cop just has to explain, like, listen to me. Do you have any idea how many times we've been out here? All right. Ever since the new system had been installed and put into place, we've been out here 113 times since November 2019. All right. And, you can just tell when he's, saying that, it's like, he's done. The fucking community seems done with Cyraxx. And, the landlady's just like, oh, dear God, 113 times? And it's like, well, I want to get rid of him, but then he's got nowhere to go. And, it's like, well, is there anything that we can do about this? It's like, well, you want my opinion? I'd say evict his ass. But I'm a biased source because I'm the one that has to deal with this shit. I've been dealing with it for years. And so, the landlady's just, fumigating about all this. And eventually it's like, listen, I would say you evict his ass. It's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't evict an individual person, can I? It's like, actually, you can. My recommendation, you get into contact with Adult Protective Services, maybe find a group home for him, because he's not, mentally capable of taking care of himself, let alone, being a burden for somebody else like Sally. Because, the landlady's just going into, oh, well, I want to evict him, but I don't want to do anything to Sally, because she's a great tenant, she's, always paid rent on time. It would make her so sad if we separated her and Cyraxx, but... the landlady admits that this is starting to affect her everyday life. What's been going on is that trolls from the online space have been appearing on the property in person, something that we're going to see very readily here in a little bit. They've been appearing and they've been fucking up with the property because of Cyraxx's online interactions with random people. What he'll routinely do is he'll get into shouting matches with people, and eventually, if he gets angry enough, he'll be challenging them, just be like, if you want to fight, why don't you show up to my house and I'll fight you? Now, usually what will happen is Cyraxx will remain in the attic and hide, and it will fall to either Sally or Ed. Ed is Sally's boyfriend, if you don't know. He's also a meth head, but we're not quite there yet. They'll just be answering the door and just be like, hey, can you just go away? Cyraxx ain't answering the door. So Cyraxx will usually hide, although there's been a recent development where Cyraxx is more willing to put his money where his mouth is, come out and try to fight these trolls, hand-to-hand combat style. Doesn't usually work out well for him, but at least he's trying. You gotta give him credit for that, right? He's not all just talk at this point. He's at least willing to put his life on the line for a fight that he thinks is worth it. Anyway. So the cop actually has to just be like, hey, listen, do you know what YouTube is? Or do you have any idea how to use YouTube? And the landlady's like, well, not really, no. And the cop actually has to type the shit on his phone and hand it over to her and just be like, here, listen. And the landlady is just fucking mortified because there are hundreds upon thousands of videos detailing Cyraxx's everyday life, his life story to date, everything that's happened, and she is just blindsided, She's like a deer stuck in headlights, just whoa, I had no idea, dear God. And, because people have talked about Cyraxx to great length, and again, she's complaining about how, my insurance might go up because of this, because people are starting to fuck with the property, and that's going to increase the risk on the property of property damage, and it's starting to affect my life, and I just want to get Cyraxx out of here. I don't want to touch Sally, but, and, the cop's just like, I understand, man, but, again, my recommendation is you get into contact with Adult Protective Services, get his ass evicted, because he's causing a disturbance in the local community. By the way, that 113 times that he states that he's been out there, or at least the cops have been out there, I'm pretty sure that he himself was not out there every 113th time. But who's to say that he wasn't? You see, Cyraxx is starting to affect the lives of everyday people like you and I. Think about all the victims here. The landlady who's renting the property out to Sally, who the landlady is fully aware has been beaten up on, okay? Like, Sally, like, in spite of the fact that she's an old lady and Cyraxx's own grandmother, his flesh and blood, he has beaten her before, okay? They've gotten into fist fights, and Sally refused to press charges, and there might be ulterior motives here. I'll tell you in a little bit, but fucking A, you know, the landlady's fully cognizant of that, and, like, you know, think about all the police officers that arrive on the property. They'd be going out solving real crimes in Akron, Ohio, but they're coming out to the property to answer random mamby-pamby bullshit perpetuated by Cyraxx. Cyraxx actually made an appeal to decency, calling upon the services of the local police department to help him fight the trolls. Yeah, like, sort of twisting cyberspace with real life and, like, trying to elicit the cyber police to his aid. It didn't work out well for him, and you'll see what I mean in a little bit, but anyway, you know, the cop just recommends, hey, listen, just, you know, go down to the station, get some case notes, get some notes on all of these visits, bring this material and as evidence to Adult Protective Services, just make a case for it, state that, hey, he's causing a lot of disturbances, he's mentally unwell, he needs help, and, you know, he can be placed in a group home. So what happened from that is, I already mentioned that Cyraxx appears on video. That's where it came from. This adds so much context to where the whole eviction saga, like, you know, came about, because it was actually the cop that recommended to the landlady, hey, listen, it's no bueno. And the fact that the landlady now knows who Cyraxx is online, she can look at all those videos and just see how bad the property is from the inside out. All the fucking holes in the wall that fucking Cyraxx has punched in them, the fact that they had bedbug infestations in the past, and, like, how dismal Cyraxx's sense of hygiene truly is. So she's got all the deets now, okay? She's got access to everything the online community knows about Cyraxx, which is truly a frightening thought. For Cyraxx, anyway. Cyraxx just fucking genius moves, you know? He made a new YouTube channel. It was Melkor Mania for a while. And he only uploaded about 3 videos, but he was at least back on YouTube, and then he deleted that channel more recently because of all the online attention invested in him. But how stupid can you be? You know, the landlady makes a stipulation. Like, Sally in the past has basically cut off internet access for Cyraxx periodically to try to calm him down, but generally speaking, she's kind of afraid of Cyraxx. Now, Ed, he's that meth head, you know, Sally's boyfriend, he has smacked, like, Cyraxx around in the past, but, you know, Ed's not always going to be there, okay? He's going to be going out doing Ed things. But when he is there, you know, to see, like, you know, his baby mama, you know, like, things are going to go happen. Anyway, you know, the cop actually, you know, he's just very professional. He's one of those good cops, just, you know, hard-nosed, firm, you know, professional, candid, polite. But also, he pointed out some very interesting things that the landlady seemed to have no idea about. And Sally is the least bit sympathetic in all of this. However, the primary issue here is the fact that the cop basically nails it on the head. Sally is enabling Cyraxx's behavior. She's not cutting off his internet access. She's not having the hard conversations with him about, hey, listen, the landlady is getting on our case about all of the disturbances and bullshit that you are causing for the rest of the family here. You need to, like, stop getting into these fights online. Sally has historically gotten, like, you know, she actually appears on camera periodically and, like, interrupts some of Cyraxx's little live streams or, like, YouTube videos to basically say, hey, listen, you really need to, like, put this stuff down. You need to shut this shit off. You need to just go outside, touch grass. Well, she never said that, but, you know, that it was the general idea. The ode of remembrance, the idea that she at least tried to, like, tell him that it's all in his head. And Cyraxx, he plays this zero-sum game because he thinks he's going to win something. something. Like he's gonna win an argument with random trolls online. Now, here's the problem. All the trolls online, they know exactly where Cyraxx lives because he was probably dumb enough to reveal his real-life address. And, you know, they show up to the house and they start fucking with him. This is going to be significant because of some other footage. At the very beginning, you might have watched the intro. You saw the intro where the audio was broken, alright? That was Aware of Myself, 45464. And what he did was he actually recorded a protest. Have you ever known anybody to be so truly reprehensible and abhorrent that actual people show up to their real-life address to, like, boycott and protest their mere existence of living there? Because that's what happened to Cyraxx. That was the whole assault that happened a little while ago, alright? And honestly, a whole bunch of trolls from online showed up on the property, and the most notable two that I can think of off the top of my head are Aware of Myself 4564, and also this old dude that's shirtless and holding up a sign. And the old dude, he's a little bit hilarious to me, but there's also some noteworthy mentions from across the street, like Fed Smokers Fiends, and some others that are quite clearly nearby. It's very hard to distinguish whether the people that actually show up to watch are trolls protesting, like Cyraxx living there because he's a child predator, or like they're just random-ass people from the neighborhood that are curious what kind of bullshit is going on, like, in their community. But anyway, obviously, from the footage that you saw, you know, Aware of Myself, he approaches the property, the urban ninja, as I like to call him, because he's got a little bit of a face wrap, and he's dressed in street clothes, so he looks exactly like what you'd imagine an urban ninja to look like. But, you know, he shows up, and he's just recording, and fucking Big Ed Mustafa, he shows out to, like, shout at the guy and be like, "Get the fuck off my lawn!" And Cyraxx just comes out with a bat. Now, the bat's like an aluminum bat, so it can do some damage, but it honestly looks like something that you'd see a school child bring to, like, the elementary school, like, baseball field, okay? It doesn't exactly look that intimidating to begin with. And, you know, for a little while, like, really it's just Cyraxx kind of, like, you know, stepping up to him, maintaining sort of like a 5-foot distance and like threatening him with a bat. But eventually Cyraxx comes in swinging because, like, you know, Aware of Myself drops the camera, and for a while you see like him recording the, you know, the fucking sky. But, you know, you can just see like fucking Cyraxx come in there, and he's like swinging wide swings, coming in there, trying to like knock him like all kinds of shit out of him. And he hits a little bit of his forearm, just a little bit, not much. It's like a grazing blow. But Cyraxx is so weak and pathetic, like, you know, fucking Aware of Myself, all he has to do is sort of reach out and grab the base of the bat, and for a while they're just like fighting for the bat, and Cyraxx's wimpy arms are like struggling to maintain like grip on the bat, because Cyraxx, after years of subsisting on nothing but sludge, his arms are incapable of exerting anything in the way of strength. But, yeah, it was quite an interesting fight, and that's where you get up close and personal, because Aware of Myself, he's, like, still finagling the camera as all this is going on, and you get to see Cyraxx's ugly-ass face, like, you know, just staring on. And eventually, I don't know what happens, but I guess either Sally or Ed convinces Cyraxx to just knock it off, because he just drops the bat, you know, tail tucked between his legs, walks back to the house, and Sally and Ed are yelling at the protesters, and this old dude, right, he just rushes up with a sign, and I don't even know what that sign says, but I would imagine it's like, "We don't appreciate no child predators around here no more." It's just like maintaining the fight. The whole thing would have been fucking funny if not for the fact that, one, Cyraxx did technically assault somebody. He was coming out of like swinging with a bat. What the fuck do you think you're gonna do? And the worst thing about that is, I don't know if you all remember, but Cyraxx got into a fight a little while ago against Big, like, Marty, like Music Biz Marty.
Come on. I thought you went to the theater. Come on. Come over here.
Like, this big guy in a red shirt knocked his ass flat on the ground and got, like, I had never heard somebody scream like that before.
No! No! Get the fuck out.
the way that Cyraxx screamed that night, it wasn't even like a squeal, piggy, squeal. It was just like, he was like screaming bloody murder, like Jesus was upon him.
Get up! Get the fuck up. Bitch.
Gentlemen, the king!
But anyway, one fatal mistake came about from all this, and that's the fact that Sally, she actually calls the cops. And the whole irony here is that the cops, rather than come disperse the crowd of quote-unquote protesters and trolls, they come that night to arrest Cyraxx for assault. And it's so crazy because when Aware Myself starts recording again, the audio is completely fixed now, so you can actually hear what's going on. And you hear like what sounds like a bunch of dogs like barking all in unison. No, it is actually just one dog being yappy. And like the howl that comes out, it's like, "Arr!" That's from Cyraxx himself. I didn't even know he was capable of making noises like that. But he's like coming out and being led in handcuffs. And it's just like, why did you do this to me? Why did you do this to me? Like making a huge spectacle of the whole thing. And, you know, Aware Myself is just very candid and forthcoming. Just being like, because we don't appreciate child predators like you being in our community. And, you know, he's being led to the squad car. Big Ed Mustafa gets in Aware Myself's face, and he's just like, you know, get the fuck out of here, and like, you know, I'll give you a knuckle sandwich or something.
Public,
go.
sir, will you
gotta go.
You need to keep him away from me.
You gotta go.
You're gonna go to jail too, Ed?
And the cop actually has to separate Aware Myself and Ed. And like Ed's just having a meth head moment because he's like trying to fight Aware Myself. And obviously the cops being there, that'd be a really stupid move because like Aware Myself is fully cognizant of the fact that he is legally, like has the legal right to stand on the sidewalk. And you know, he's just like staying there. He's just like, this is public property, all right? And like, Ed's just like yelling and stuff and just be like, no, over there it ain't. And the cop's just like, okay, stay over there. And like, I don't even know why Ed's getting also sort of like huffy over this because from everything that I can tell, neither Sally or Ed particularly like Cyraxx, okay? And I'm like just absolutely convinced of the fact that Cyraxx has brought nothing but misery and woe to like both Sally and Ed. And Ed, he's willing to smack Cyraxx around if Cyraxx gets all mouthy or like lippy with him. But like Sally, she's the least bit afraid of Cyraxx because of, you know, various incidents in the past of Cyraxx beating up on his poor grandma Sally. So yeah, but there's a little bit of an exchange, and, you know, Aware Myself, he's just saying, hey, like, just visualize this as sort of a rerun of what's going to be happen when you actually get arrested for being a pedophile. Now, if you're curious what he's referring to, various people have pretended to be 14-year-old girls or underage girls online to try to entice Chance to, like, reach out to them, talk to them, and fucking Cyraxx is just so kicked in the head that he's going to slide in their DMs and talk them up and get all lovey-dovey and sexual with them. And then the ruse would be, like, revealed. It's like, okay, you're a fucking child predator. You're a fucking pedophilic piece of shit. Because I was actually a 23-year-old girl, like, you know, pretending to be a 14-year-old girl. So if you had the opportunity to talk to somebody that was underage, you would take it. And then Cyraxx, you know, in typical Cyraxx fashion, he thinks he can scream his way out of arguments or anything bad to happen to him. Just be like, no, I fucking didn't. I knew you were 13 the whole time. Blah, 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 blah.
This is a trial one for when they arrest you for being a pedophile.
The ulterior motives here, like the speculation from the online community, is that Sally is getting something in the way of like benefits because Cyraxx is living there as a dependent, you know? That's the only conclusion I can really arrive to besides feeling the least bit sorry for him, but you gotta wonder, at some point, Sally's gonna have to fess up to the fact that she's enabling this behavior. She's enabling all of this by not really talking the hard talk with Cyraxx about getting his life together and trying to improve it in a variety of different ways, because Cyraxx, he's the least bit delusional, okay? And we're gonna talk about some things that I'm aware of him in a little bit here, but getting through this, he was led away in the squad car. The irony is not lost on me that fucking Sally is the one that ratted him out inadvertently. She was not, like, trying to get Cyraxx arrested, by the way. She was actually trying to call attention to the trolls. And, like, just saying, yeah, there's a group of people outside that are attacking my son. And it's like...
What kind of people?
Imagine being, like, the person on, like, you know, basically 911. You're, like, talking to this woman, and she's trying to convey to you that all of these people are from, like, the internet. These internet people are attacking my son. You know how ludicrous that sounds to anybody that's a prime normie? These people on the internet are showing up at my house attacking my son.
25th, 2023, 19 hours, 54 minutes, 37 seconds.
Akron Police and Fire, Tech 243. Hello?
Yes, I need a police officer at my house right now, please.
What is the address?
There's a gang of guys out there that's after my son.
Where are they at right now?
Out in front of my house.
Who are they?
Pardon?
Who are they?
I don't know, they're a gang of people from the internet. Oh, how many would you say there was? Half a dozen, maybe a dozen?
What are they doing? Hello?
Yes.
What are they doing?
They're trying to attack him.
Do you know what for or over what?
They say that he's a predator, and he's not. This is a pedophile. This is something that's been going on for quite a while.
Any weapons involved?
Well, my son had a bat when he got the bat, so...
What's your son's name?
Pardon?
Your son's name. Hello? What is your son's name?
Chance Wilkins.
And what's your name?
Sally.
Phone number?
Oh, boy. I'm going to give you my boyfriend's phone number. I can't think of mine right off the bat. It's,
Where's your son at?
Pardon?
Where's your son at? Is he inside?
He's inside right now, but those people are still out there.
How did they get there?
Pardon?
Did they get there on foot or in a car?
I don't know. There's just I don't see any cars or anything out there. I think they probably parked down the road.
All right, they'll be over there shortly for you.
Thank you.
Oh man, and the first thing about that is there's already visual evidence. You know that video I used for my intro of like Cyraxx coming in hot and heavy, swinging the fucking baseball bat. Oh, it does not look good. And you know what's even more fucked up about all this? Bail was only set at $304. Cyraxx coming at somebody hot and heavy with aluminum baseball bat. Now, Cyraxx himself, he, like I said before, subsisting on a diet of nothing but sludge for all his life. His little wimpy arms are pretty thin, okay? He's not going to do too much damage with that bat, but still, in capable hands, that bat can fucking kill somebody. So, $304. Granted, maybe that's a testament to how poor Cyraxx truly is. Cyraxx and money don't really mix well, okay? Because Cyraxx thinks that a fucking Apple Watch is worth more than the house. He thinks that a gold effigy that he received in the mail is real gold, not understanding that actual gold is pretty fucking dense and malleable and stuff like that. Anyway, Sally comes, pays bail, gets him out of jail. You know what's better than jail? Bail. And brings him back home, and Cyraxx is pissed off. Okay, he rages about it online for a bit. And then, obviously the most recent development is he deletes his new YouTube channel, Metalcore Mania. For some reason, it shows out a thugged out Pikachu, which I'm actually very curious on where he even got that fucking avatar picture, because it looks pretty cool for somebody like Cyraxx. But anyway, so I'm sure that those of you that have no idea who we're even talking about today, all of these updates that I've availed to you all, I'm sure that you're curious who Cyraxx is and what he's all about. I'll tell you some basic things because this video is getting kind of long already, but we're definitely going to make sort of a life history event based on my perspective of the whole thing at a later date. For right now, let's talk about just some basic shit, alright? Now, the whole Cyraxx life story is one predicated upon cringe. There ain't no two ways about that, but it's also one predicated on tragedy and misery and woe. Because Cyraxx, he had a hard upbringing, okay? I am not trying to elicit sympathy from y'all because, honestly, don't feel bad for Cyraxx. Cyraxx is not a good person. If that footage, what little I showcase in this video, is anything to go off of, Cyraxx is the least bit unpleasant to deal with, on top of the fact that he's already admitted to or been caught red-handed doing some truly reprehensible thing, like being a potential child predator. So he is not a sympathetic individual in this whole story. But I will say this, alright? You know, he had delusions of grandeur. He wanted to become a music maker. He wanted to become a juggalo rapper. Alright, that's what his adult passions would eventually ride on. And I don't know what got into his head to be like a juggalo rapper, but he wants to make juggalo style music, okay? And we're going to get into a little bit where this all came from, but as far as his point of origin, he is not an Akron, Ohio native, okay? He was actually born in Alaska. He's actually a transplant into Akron, Ohio. However, Akron, Ohio by itself is not the best place to sort of grow up, okay? I asked a couple of my friends that live out in Ohio, just, you know, out of the blue in the making of this video, hey, so listen, I'm just curious about your unbiased opinions about Akron, Ohio. My one friend immediately was just like, nuke it. I'm like, whoa, doesn't that sound the least bit harsh? And it's just like, well, Tujo, sometimes you gotta be brutally honest about these sorts of things. There ain't nothing there you want to see. There ain't nobody there you want to deal with. I say just fucking nuke the place and wipe it off the face of the earth. The least bit harsh. He characterized the city as basically being like a rat hole of a town that, you know, nobody in their right state of mind had any business going to, let alone living there. But for several years, that's where Cyraxx sort of grew up in. You know, he went to school there. He, you know, grew up there. So his parents, right? His parents were a drug addict and a rapist, respectively. Because the drug addict, Connie, his mother, she actually died when he was 17, which is truly tragic. I think she's a little bit sympathetic. However, she's also the one that sort of admitted that she didn't have the capability or propensity to really raise Cyraxx and give him an upbringing, so she kind of put him up for adoption. Now, this is where Sally comes in, because Sally, she opens her arms up to Cyraxx, figuring that he has nowhere else to go, and she basically agrees to, like, adopt Cyraxx as her own son, you know, which I gotta hand it to Sally, you know. She's a little bit sympathetic in that regard. She actually opened her heart up to try to take care of Cyraxx when he had nobody else to turn to. Granted, their relationship has been a least bit strained in more recent years, but we'll get into that a little later. The father, right? The father's still alive. However, the father, he got arrested fairly early on because he forced himself upon a minor, i.e. rape, okay? And so for many years, throughout the duration of, like, Cyraxx's childhood, the father was completely out of the picture. I don't think they ever reconnected or got close. Granted, considering the fact that he's a rapist, I don't think he'd want to. But, you know, considering the fact that Cyraxx almost became a would-be child predator, like father, like son, right? Maybe pedophilia just runs in the family. Anyway, the father is basically out of the picture. So, you know, Cyraxx, to date, he'd been living with his dear grandma, Sally. And everything seems all well and good. However, Cyraxx, he was never really cut out to be an academic, okay? He didn't graduate high school until the age of 23, and there's actually some ambiguity with that, because it's not really been ever confirmed whether he actually, like, graduated with a diploma or anything like that. What's more likely is that he simply aged out or got kicked out because of, like, some sort of disciplinary action. See, I've often heard rumors when I was in high school about kids that never turned in their schoolwork, they never took tests, they never turned in assignments, they never did anything, they never studied, they never contributed to the class in any meaningful way, and they just kind of existed to, like, be, like, you know, taking up space, you know? And so, 18 to 19, okay, you spend another year in high school, whatever, no harm, no foul. When it gets to be about 20, that's when the school administration kind of looks at you and they're just like, are you even trying anymore?
You're not even trying anymore, are you?
Now, for him to have, quote-unquote, graduated high school at 23, that's kind of an achievement because, like, generally speaking, you hit 21, you're kicked out of school. You know, the fucking school makes a call to the local police department, police officer shows up, they escort you off the premises, and it's just like, well, You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And, like, you effectively cannot attend high school anymore. If you want a high school education, you get your GED. That's it. And Cyraxx didn't even do that. He didn't even try, okay? He didn't even try to get his GED or anything like that. Just living with his grandma, Sally, in Akron, Ohio. And so here's how things would sort of play out. He always had sort of an aspiration to become a musician for some reason. And, you know, somebody out there was actually willing to take him under his wing. Somebody by the name of Eric Scrubolo. Eric Scrubolo should be a dead giveaway for the fact that he is a juggalo himself, all right? Part of that, you know, killer clown posse. He takes Cyraxx under his wing out of a sense of, you know, just feeling pity for him. You know, he sympathizes with the fact that, you know, Cyraxx wants to become a juggalo rapper. So it's like, all right, you know what? I'll take you under my wing. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, man. And, you know, one of these days when you learn the basics and you truly develop, you're going to be able to get your own record label deal and become a juggalo rapper just like me. And so things sort of play out for a bit. However, here's the problem. The both had a very bad falling out at some point because not only did Cyraxx steal his namesake, Cyraxx is something that he didn't even come up with himself, okay? That's something entirely from Eric Scrubolo. He stole that name from Eric Scrubolo, okay, and adopted it as his own identity. But not only that, add insult to injury, he also stole several of his songs, okay, and tried to pass it off as his own. Now, obviously, this would not stand up to online scrutiny, but the, like, you know, it still stands that he just fucking stole shit from, like, the one person that was willing to take him under his wing, teach him everything that he needed to know to become an independent music maker. And so there's obviously some bad blood between Eric and Cyraxx because one thing that, like, came about, they had sort of a master-apprentice relationship, you know, Eric being the master and Cyraxx being the proverbial apprentice. One thing that sort of signified that Cyraxx was a part of his crew was that he had a set of dog tags. The set of dog tags was kind of a symbol of their partnership together as master and apprentice. Cyraxx would end up making a bit of a public spectacle, recording himself throwing that into a lake, and, like, bragging about it with his then-girlfriend on camera. And, like, you know, Eric Scrubolo obviously didn't take that too well, but it's like, what are you gonna do? Alright, the louse stole his namesake, couple songs, whatever, he's out of my life, fuck him. And so this sort of opened the door for newfound trolling attempts because people recognized the fact that Cyraxx really wanted to become an independent music maker, okay? He wanted to get a lucrative record label deal. He wanted to hook up with a music company and be able to actually, like, market his music and make the big bucks. Because he had dollar signs in his eyes when he thought, hey, being a juggalo rapper, that's how you get the big bucks. That's how you get money. That's how you get bling. This is where Music Biz Marty kind of comes into the scene. And Music Biz Marty had already been aware of Cyraxx since 2018, okay? But the trolling attempts actually peaked during, like, COVID. So that would be, like, 2020 to 2023. And, like, if you're wondering where Cyraxx even came from, if you all recall, Christian had been arrested about that time, okay? Like, you know, during COVID, like, Christian had been arrested and put in jail, and it was honestly perceived by the general masses that, hey, listen, the one lolcow out there, the real OG in, like, all of this, in trolling and everything like that, they're shit out of luck. They're up shit creek. They needed somebody that could hail as the grand messiah, somebody that could truly uplift their own humdrum and monotonous lives up from a state of normalcy and be inspired that no matter how bad things got, like, their lives would be so much better off than somebody that was only personified as rage, pain, and suffering. Cyraxx just happened to be available. He was the one OG. He was hailed as the new Christian, received with open arms, and then mercilessly mocked and trolled. And that's where it all began, okay? And, like, you know, trolling really started to peak during 2020 to 2021, like, during that time frame, because that's when the videos came about. That's when the online fascination and intrigue really set in of the general public. Various people would invest, like, time into looking at how bizarre, wacky, and, you know, cringy that Cyraxx could truly be on camera, okay? Now, it would be a surprise to you and just about everybody else, but Cyraxx actually has had girlfriends along the way, alright? There was Heather, not Heather K, Heather. Heather was the first that I'm aware of. Heather, I think, was like a high school sweetheart. That's my impression of her, because she's fairly mysterious. She just has black hair, looks fairly plain, but there is a picture of her floating around, and she just looks the least bit ordinary. It's a mystery today what like caused them to break up. Because, like, there's no really prior, like, context about what led up to that point. You'd see little pictures of Cyraxx's, like, high school life and, like, the people that he actually had with him along the way. Now, then, later, after the breakup, and they ceased to be an item, you had Abby. Abby, I call her Claw Girl, kind of like Deadwing Dork, how he's got, like, a claw, you know. If you don't know who Deadwing Dork is, he's another guy who does, like, long-winded live streams, basically talking about law cows and various weird individuals in the online space. But Abby, just like him, had a claw for a hand. And what's shocking is that she actually had already left a lover with a child to be with Cyraxx. And Cyraxx would unceremoniously break up with her to be with a girl named Heather K. Now, Heather K is said to have died back in May 2022. And the reason that she's so kind of profound and recognizable, she looks like a skater girl. You know, like a skinny skater girl wearing a beanie cap, got glasses and shit like that. But to, like, quote-unquote own the trolls in one of their videos, she actually kissed Cyraxx to quote-unquote own the trolls. And what's visible and visceral about it is that she visibly gagged when they kissed together. And, like, the trolls kind of inferred from all that, yo, I think that she caught something from Cyraxx. Like, Cyraxx already looks like he's got, like, 10 different diseases ravaging his body, let alone the developmental problems probably brought on by drugs at birth. But, yeah, and just, like, going in on that, Cyraxx, like, just looking at him, he looks like a goblin, sure, but he also looks like an extra from, like, Wrong Turn meets, like, The Hills Have Eyes. He looks like an NPC from Fallout 3, honestly. Do you all remember Point Lookout? Do you remember the swamp folk? Like, all those hicks that look all mutated and gross and inbred, like, in the backcountry of, like, southern Maryland? And, like, you go into the swamp, and they're highly territorial, and they're just like, I'm gonna get you. Ah, shoot, missed him, Cletus. Yeah, he looks exactly like one of those guys. Like, that's honestly what I felt like when I first saw Cyraxx for the very first time years ago. But anyway, more recently, obviously, I already told you everything there is to know about more recent sort of, like, events. He has historically beaten up on his grandma Sally for this, that, and the other. Namely, there was an argument. He would routinely get catfish, just like Christian. The parallels between Cyraxx and Christian, they're tenuous, but they're also very distinct, because it's like various people would act like they were women, like prospective girlfriends wanting to go out with Cyraxx because they were impressed with his music skills and things like that. And, like, you know, he actually got into an argument with Sally about whether or not he could walk his ass from Akron, Ohio to Kansas. And Sally just, you know, being the voice of reason in the household, just basically states to him, you can't walk from fucking Akron, Ohio to Kansas. And fucking Cyraxx, you know, believing that this mysterious, non-existent woman was waiting for him in Kansas, actually beat up on Sally. And the worst thing about that is that Sally did not press charges, okay? And what ended up happening is when the cops asked, like, what happened to Cyraxx, Cyraxx was just like, I don't know, I blacked out, I don't remember. Anyway, y'all remember that 113 times that the cops have shown up on the premises since the new system was installed back in November 2019? That is not to be taken at face value, because the cops have been out there dozens upon hundreds of times already before the new system was even in place. So it remains to be seen how many times the cops have actually been out there. But Akron, Ohio is already fully aware of who, like, you know, Cyraxx is. And it's sort of like a do not answer at this point. Unless somebody is getting murdered, attacked, or some, like, real legitimate bullshit is going on the premises, they don't even come out anymore, okay? As far as Cyraxx's online activities are concerned, he gets into shouting matches over with people online. You know, he gets into Discord calls, and his basic reaction to anybody, like, doubting him or trying to provide, like, you know, question him on what the truth of the matter is, his only response is to scream and yell at them until they accept what he has to say as truth. The whole truth, nothing but the truth, the whole truth. So, yeah. The speculation that I have as to the only reason that Sally and Ed tolerate Cyraxx being at the premises is that they're getting some sort of welfare check from the government for taking care of him, okay? He is being listed as a dependent. That is, like, really what I think is the ulterior motive to all this is. Anyway, this is a very tenuous sort of, like, you know, rundown of everything I know about Cyraxx, because if I went into, like, every nitty-gritty detail, we could be here for fucking hours, okay? Maybe I'll have to make a part 2 of this video. But the main focus was the assault, the eviction saga, and, like, the arrest and the bailout. That's what I wanted to focus on in this video. Hold up! Wait a minute! We ain't done yet. There was a big update that dropped today. If you're not entirely sure what I'm referring to, apparently we have someone on the inside. Someone's on good terms with Cyraxx and actually got into a little bit of a phone call with him. You know, just called him up, had a little chat. The chat was recorded because apparently this guy on the inside, he's not actually Cyraxx's friend. Granted, you probably didn't need me to tell you all that. You know, one token rule for interactions with those online: always know who you're engaging with, and always be careful what kind of information you're sharing with them, okay? Now, this should be the least bit obvious, granted. One thing I neglected to mention is that Cyraxx is the least bit gullible, okay? People have sort of emotionally and informationally manipulated him in the past, like convincing him that he somehow won a record deal and shit like that. But anyway, as far as the actual subject matter of, like, their conversation, this guy, right, Base Daltino, he basically actually specifies, like, and I don't know if, like, dropping his name is going to somehow compromise his unique position as being on good terms with the Goblin, but he basically just clarifies to the general public, hey, I'm not actually a Cyraxx supporter, I'm just pretending to be friends with him to get information, which is at least a bit two-faced and a little bit of a snake-in-the-grass tactic, but at the same time, at this point, my sympathies for Cyraxx have kind of dried up, so whatever. Anyway, Cyraxx actually reveals that he only just got back, like, an hour and a half ago after going to the courthouse. And what's crazy is, like, the subject, like, YouTube background picture, it showcases he, Sally, and Ed, and they almost look like a normal Akron, Ohio family. Yeah, one big, happy, dysfunctional family, I'm sure. You know, you got dad, you got mom, you got the son, and Cyraxx actually looks somewhat normal in this picture. Granted, he's wearing a plaid shirt, and it doesn't really help discourage the mental image I have of him being one of those swamp folk from fucking Fallout Point Lookout, but anyway, apparently he went over and his public defender was not there, alright? The whole reason he went to the courthouse was presumably to get, like, you know, the paperwork about the assault, considering the fact that he only just got bailed out a couple days prior, and he needed information, right? So Sally and Ed took him down there, possibly to keep him out of trouble, possibly just actually ensure that he got the paperwork he needed. And Ed doesn't seem too happy, and Sally just looks worn out. Granted, she always looks worn out, probably for dealing with Cyraxx all these years. But yeah, you know, they went down there, and apparently, Cyraxx's public defender, they took off because, you know, tomorrow's 4th of July. So, that clearly didn't go anywhere. And Cyraxx just couldn't wrap his head around that, but it's just like, whatever. You know, it's for the extended weekend. They were out. It's going to be interesting to see if Cyraxx gets a man or a woman. Not that it really matters, but I would imagine just about any public defender worth their salt, they're going to try to kick that can down the road. They're going to, like, basically pull a David Heidelberg, you know, Christian's lawyer. They're going to probably try to pull, like, David Heidelberg's maneuvers and try to, like, kick the can as far down the road to the point that whatever sentence Cyraxx ends up getting is going to be so light that he'll basically get a slap on the wrist. That's probably what they're hoping for. Because I can assure you, nobody in that family can afford the services of a lawyer. Anyway, it's interesting to hear Cyraxx actually share his side of the story, because apparently, you know, all the protesters that you saw in the video, half those people that were out there weren't even fucking trolls from online. They were actually his neighbors that were all coming up to the house and getting angry with Cyraxx for causing a disturbance in the community, which is at least bit hilarious to me, but at the same time, whew, add insult to injury. And Cyraxx, obviously suffering from main character syndrome, thinks that taking a baseball bat and charging them is the best possible course of action here. And Cyraxx's, MO for why he did this is that I was defending my family, I was defending my property, and then I get arrested. And now he's distrustful of cops, for obvious reasons. He even just says so during the call towards the tail end, basically saying, I don't really trust the cops around here no more. Because he made that call for decency not too long ago where he was just, asking for the cops, the FBI, and anybody that would listen to come help him. Didn't work. In fact, the cops specifically ignore anything that Cyraxx says because they just wrote him off as being mentally disturbed. Throughout the duration of the call, he actually reveals some interesting things. Apparently, that hero of Akron, he's not particularly popular among trolls online because, in Cyraxx's own words, he just unnecessarily goes over the top in whatever he does, and that kind of annoys some of the trolls, It's almost like there's a little bit of a rivalry between the trolls online and the various factions that have sort of built up, because I'm pretty sure Music Biz Marty, he's in a league of his own. He'll obviously talk to some other people and coordinate trolling attempts, but he's not going to go out of his way to join forces with other people. Hell, even Cyraxx asked to join forces with Music Biz Marty. Music Biz Marty was just kind of humored him and would just kind of listen to him once. Cyraxx actually detailed his time, being a jailbird. Literally being in a jail cell before his dear Aunt Sally picked him up. And he was just saying that most of the people in there were chill. Kindred spirits, I'm sure. Cyraxx was detailing how there was a father that, by Cyraxx's own words and his perception, was only disciplining his child, and yet he was booked for assault, and he saw that as just him being a good parent, which is ironic because Cyraxx has never faced real consequences for just about anything that's ever happened in his life. He didn't really have real parents. I don't know how Sally's parenting style was over the years, but if this is the end result, I'm not pinning everything on Sally, but she could have done just a little bit better, okay? If this is how Cyraxx turned out. But anyway, it's at least a bit ironic, that Cyraxx would actually sympathize with the father for disciplining his child. I guess Cyraxx feels remiss that his own father was not really a big presence in his life for being a fucking sexual predator, but I digress. Anyway, he sort of segues into talking about the trolling attempts online and various things, and given all the crazy-ass whack bullshit that's been going on around him, he has a lot of stuff recorded. I'm talking about, music stuff that he wants to start, putting together and putting albums out there like he used to. But, and, the caller, Daltino, he's just well, hey, man, is there any chance I can get a sample? Now, obviously, Daltino, he's throughout the duration of the conversation, he's being that one friend who's engrossed on their phone, scrolling through Twitter. And, obviously he's paying attention, but as far as his actual verbal responses, it's just yeah, oh, yeah, ooh, that doesn't sound good. So you can kind of tell that he's just putting up an act to try to get on Cyraxx's good side and get some information out of him because he's a little bit curious and he wants to share the deets with the online community. Again, a very duplicitous tactic, but like I said before, my sympathies for Cyraxx have long since dried up. Ever since, the various attempts that he's had, dropping nudes on people that were either 14, 15, 16, they were underage, okay? So, but, he sort of, talks about how all the trolls, right, were tearing up sections of the fence. Now, apparently Sally wasn't taking a nap. She mentions that she was taking a nap, when her car was about to get stolen, but apparently with that, she was in the bathroom, and, she comes out, hears these noises, and, people are fucking tearing up sections of the fence. Cyraxx can't help but, just say, the weirdest thing that the trolls have ever taken was her trash can. And it's just yeah, why would they take a trash can? Now, I'm pretty sure this is a situation of they weren't so much stealing it as they were relocating it, probably in the local river. But, just to get the goofs and gaffs out of fucking Sally, Ed, and Cyraxx. They have stolen a lot of shit before, alright? But, and so mostly, Cyraxx is acting all buddy-buddy to this guy, just laughing at the ludicrous nature of the situation. This is definitely something I'm going to explore the least bit, but it was a small update, if not nothing else, just some insight as to how Cyraxx perceived all of this. And surprisingly, he actually alludes to the fact that he's got a girlfriend. Now, whether this is like an actual girlfriend or just an online catfish remains to be seen. I'm pretty sure that because there's no girl at the premises, like any girlfriend that Cyraxx had, he'd usually be living with. Like the girl would be allowed to stay at his place, or I should say, Sally's place. But I'm actually very curious as to how this is going to unfold. Where is this going to go in court? Like, is this actually going to proceed like business as usual? Obviously, with 4th of July tomorrow, like, Courthouse, it's been postponed, his, like, court appearance, but, like, are trolls going to attempt to, like, appear in the courtroom when the case is being reviewed, and, like, are they going to be sitting in the gallery all watching? Are some of them going to be witnesses? Because, you know, I hear from, Akron, you know, Aware Myself, he'll probably definitely be there, because he's the fucking victim here. Well, victim... He did technically make contact with the bat, and he was assaulted, so he is the victim, but, like, he didn't face any real, like, physical, like, harm from that whole debacle. Anyway, I'll definitely keep up on this, and if I can figure out, if I hear anything else, I'll be sure to let y'all know. Anyway, I think that's just going to about do it for this video. Again, if I can think of anything off the top of my head that I might have forgot to mention along the way, I'll be sure to let y'all know. As far as Cyraxx's life story, we're not even scratching the surface here with that little info dump. And I honestly think that would be better served for another video in the future at an undisclosed date that we can really go into the ins and outs. Because if I started doing that right now, we could be here for hours going over every minute detail from start to finish, like of all the major events that have happened along the way. Anyway, I hope you appreciate this little update I can bring to your all's attention. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you have a better one.
Let's go have some fun.
Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video today. I really hope you all enjoyed it. Or did you hit that like button, subscribe for more? You'd really appreciate that, right? Hey, if you're in the mood for gaming, why don't you check me out on Twitch sometime? Link in the description below. Anyway, till next time guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.